Hey everyone, welcome to Lorecraft, where we deconstruct stories, explore creative perspectives, and dive into the magic of storytelling across books, movies, and games. I'm your co host, Ava Doe, a gothic romantasy author for the new adult audience.
And I'm your co-host Donnie, storyteller, designer, and creator of all things sci-fi fantasy powered by coffee.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, and welcome to the Lorecraft Creative episode. This is our first creative episode with none other than artist, graphic designer, and creative director, and our good friend, Trent Bar. Welcome to the show. Introduce yourself, your background. Like, who is Trent Bar?
So, originally growing up, I started just as a skateboarder, somebody who loved extreme sports. And of course, what comes with that is, understanding the core of the sport itself, specifically skateboarding. So I was always surrounded by brands and finding ways to express myself through brands, especially. So I think that inspired my passion for graphic design. But as far as being an artist, I think that was kind of just how I expressed myself as a teenager and just growing up. And it's kind of how I found my path in this world, as a creative.
Okay, so skateboarding was kind of the genesis of it. Was it like more so skateboarding itself, or did you like play video games and then it led into... I was never a skateboarder, but I've always said, our other mutual friend, Shep, I always felt like skateboarders sit at like the pinnacle of like creativity because they have to overcome failure so much.
Right.
And I think like if you look at from Tony Hawk to Rodney Mullen, like they just have like a very specific creative eye on things. So, for me, I learned that through playing Tony Hawk games, but did you play the games? Is it straight skateboarding, or you just love the culture of it, or what?
Yeah, I think culture, I obviously played, all the skate games. They were always my favorites. But you're like spot on, you're as a skateboarder, you're always in a state of refinement, like you have to become your own coach and, you get frustrated with not landing tricks. And unfortunately, that's just what you have to face in order to become a better skateboarder. So, looking back, I can see all of those lessons that I kind of instill in the design world or my art world today. As a creative, but then it's kind of like I was just in it and I didn't really think too much of it.
Okay.
But yeah, just everything about it, like the music, it kind of like introduced me to my friend group and helped me understand who I was. So I kind of like associated with certain brands that I liked, decks, and it's like there were different, it's almost like there are different cliques in skateboarding too, where you found your friends through the brands that you liked, which isn't, I think, a thing that most people see when they, see design or see graphic design, is that it creates subcultures, and subcultures kind of feed off of them. Most people see design as kind of like a way to create sales, or it's marketing. But I think it gives a voice, to the person, the end user, when they're still developing what they like.
Oh, 100%. I want to touch on the brand stuff later, especially since you brought up skateboarding. I didn't really connect that. But first question I guess I would ask is, what's your design philosophy, like in general? Like, different, disciplines, different artists, different creatives have certain sort of like approaches to the craft itself. What would you say is your sort of, genesis point for your design philosophy?
Yeah, well, so I started as a designer, as an artist, and, a lot of the art that I started with was all intuitive based. So I would kind of just start with an illustration, not really know where it was going to end up. And, the outcome wasn't necessarily like the most important part. It was kind of just like being in the moment. So I think my philosophy kind of goes back to this balance of control and intuition, where in order to get the job done, you obviously need like markers and goals to hit, but leaving space for like fun, exploration, creativity, it's just as important. So I think that would be my philosophy, and what I think I enjoy the most about it is that there is structure, but there's also room to kind of just play around. and explore and have conversations, conceptualize. Like, it makes for an interesting conversation and experience when you work with clients, and especially with Lorecraft, working with you guys. So yeah.
Yeah, I definitely feel like what you said is really interesting about like balancing the structure of it, but also with the creativity. Obviously, as a professional, you have to be able to do both. It can't just be like all creativity and you just like you miss all the deadlines and stuff like that. And I think we really enjoyed working with you because you were really on point with not only your design, but then really fast about like the turnaround and getting back to us and stuff. So that was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to know, what do you think makes for a great brand design or identity?
I would personally say, I mean, there's like, I would say there's probably like a list of 5 things that most designers would just agree on. But me personally, I think a brand that builds community, a brand that leaves space for the end user. It kind of takes me back to Apple. It's like you could ask anybody what an Apple phone is or an iPhone is, and they could explain it to you, which isn't the case for a lot of brands. So I think what makes great design is leaving space for the end user. Like when they were doing marketing for the iPhone, they would buy these like $30,000 to like $100,000 billboard spots, and it would just be the iPhone. It would just be a photo of the iPhone. There's no information, nothing. So it created creativity and it created like a what's the word I'm looking for?
Excitement or community, or
it created a driver to look up what it was into. So it kind of created like this seeking energy where you wanted to look into what it is, what are the new features, and that's kind of what I mean with leaving space for the end user. It's not all spoon-fed, it's this like symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, that's such an interesting philosophy, because like if the audience leans in and they start looking it up, then it's almost like a viral moment where like everyone is sharing this information and generating it together, right?
Right, exactly. And that just goes back to like organic design, and I think paying attention to that as like a company owner or somebody who has an idea that exists in the world, that gives us like our next steps, even like how our idea plays out in the world, and how people hold it and see it.
Not to jump into negative, but I'm curious because I feel like since, I don't know, maybe like the last 5 years, and this encompasses all of like the field of design, so not just specifically graphic, but also user experience, especially customer experience, user interfaces. Do you feel like there's been like a downtick in keeping that standard of excellence high in design in general, especially as it comes to a user experience feeling overall? And who do you feel kind of like, do you feel like companies today have sort of slacked off on that aspect? Because I feel like it's diminished. Like, you're trying to purchase something, you're trying to, move throughout the world or order something, what have you, and it's just, you're just hitting stonewall, or you're trying to get problems resolved looking at social media. You can't contact anyone, like the whole experience is just lost. Do you feel like there's somewhat of a downtrend? Do you feel like companies are kind of slacked off in that area?
Well, I would definitely say like there is a dark and light side to everything, and of course with marketing and brands, diluting the voice is an aspect, and it's like just getting people to use the app or making it addictive, or putting pieces in it that I don't know, maybe control the output or how people experience it. Like that's definitely a dark side to design. And somebody who's in the field, you have to kind of be aware of where you're putting your energy, because as a designer, you can go into any field. You can, join whatever company you'd like and help them, create their voice. But I think that just comes back to the personal end goal for that designer, what they want to use their gift for. And that goes for anybody, artists, creatives, people in the tech industry.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I was a little ambiguous.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if Holly had any kind of question to my tangent about.
No, I was listening to that. I was like, oh, he's got a bone to pick. He's
Yeah,
asking
he's
Trent
cooking.
if this
I'm gonna keep it
fucking
positive.
Yeah, how about-
sucks today?
Yeah, we'll do an episode called Dark UI. That's not a term I came up with. I don't know if it's an industry term.
No, I mean it
but
could
I
inspire a cool little thread. I mean,
Yeah, because I feel like there's been, and not to take the conversation too far on a tangent, because it got me monologuing. Insert the monologue clip here of Syndrome, but I feel like there's been like an intentional sort of like dark UI experience for like the last couple of years. I feel like ever since Steve Jobs died, it's just been like technology. It peaked, it got really good in a lot of ways, and then it became like cookie cutter. And now it's like, oh, now we're just engineering things to just make it more difficult than just what it needs to be.
right.
Removing support forums or making it impossible to like contact people to get an issue resolved. All these like simple things. It's just like, why is this like so frustrating?
Right. And I think that, not to open up a can of worms, but it almost reflects like the pharmaceutical industry. It's like it's in the space of like not curing, but treating. And, it's like planned
Capitalism at the end of the day.
Right. Like how do you continue to grow your company and make more money if you solve the ultimate problem? It's like you either have to dilute what you're creating so you can create a timeline that allows your company to still grow, which is one aspect. But yeah, I think that's just...
It's fucked.
Yeah, it kind of is.
Yeah.
It is. Like
We'll have to go in a whole other episode. All
right. Thank you, Trent. Thank you, Donnie, for inspiring another episode.
Yeah. No, because I'll just say this one point, and then but I think there's a beautiful synergy between art and commerce where you can make money and do good, like Google's old values that they used to have. So it's like I don't think it's mutually impossible. Look at the benefit. People always harp on like Apple and Amazon. I was using as examples, but through the design and things they built, people forget that like through the App Store, how many other Procreate is a creation from the Apple App Store, and look how Procreate has like benefited so many other people that have been able to make money and improve their lives. Who that invisible hand in the marketplace. Same thing with the Amazon platform, regardless how you feel about the companies. But I feel like the goal has been less focused on creating value through design, value through communication, what have you. And it's just been like this hyper fixation on just increasing shareholder value. But that's a whole economics talk. And I'm gonna land the plane there on that one. And whatnot. But it's a good tangent because I think all these things are so interrelated as our world becomes more increasingly like integrated and whatnot.
For sure. And I mean, being a creative in the world, like most people are focused on what they like. So, I mean, those are kind of like two magnetic poles that pull you in different directions and, feed the future of it. But also, I mean, it just comes back to, the educated consumer, and the importance of being an educated consumer. And I think that's something that I took, that's kind of like what changed my view on design was when I was in school. I really just enjoyed drawing and illustrating, and then I was like, oh, this thing is a tool. Like I could use it to either create an idea, uplift an idea, or create something that's bigger than myself even. So yeah, it's a very powerful tool, and it can be taken in any direction.
100%.
Man, we have such a good next episode now about dark UI and stuff, because I really like what you said about being an educated consumer.
Yeah.
If these mechanisms don't make money, then these companies won't do it, right? But they've duped enough people and swindled enough people into using their product, or maybe they're dependent on their product, and so it's going to continue to like fuel that treadmill, unfortunately.
Right.
I would love to know, do you have any design workflows or rituals?
Yeah, well, I would say, I mean, obviously, like, the word that comes to mind is play. Like, in the very beginning, it's, my workflow is very abstract and just loose. I kind of just sketch, I illustrate, it's really just a time to expand all of the thoughts, put all the thoughts on the board, and see how far the idea can go, and then after that, I think there's kind of like this process of refining and elimination. So how far out can we take this idea, and then what's going to be concrete at the end? So going through each of the pieces, each of the end pieces that you need, whether that's logo, font, icon, monogram, understanding what the end goal is, and then slowly just removing pieces and simplifying. And then I think the same goes for even the creative process, where in design or logos, they are simplified designs. They have to be marks that people recognize, the first time they see it. So reduction and simplification is like, that's probably the most important thing when it comes to branding.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
How do you get your? Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. I was gonna say two quick points here, but some of that realization I came across, and people will probably hear this if they listen to our show. But Poster House Museum in New York City is one of my favorite places to go because it's dedicated to the graphic arts, and I'm glad I went to this exhibit at the end of 2022 called Air Maharaja, and it's about how Air India, the airline, they created their mascot that then like promoted their airline, and it was just like this Indian Maharaja, but he's in all these other kind of cultural, pinups. So he's like a Parisian, he's in Rome eating pasta, he's like an American cowboy. And the exhibit just talked about how mascots have been used, and it got me thinking about other brand mascots. Pikachu from Pokemon,
right?
Star Wars could either be R2-D2 or maybe Yoda, or even the Stormtroopers. Those are kind of all interchangeable mascots. Harry Potter, wands or Hedwig or what have you. And it's something subtle. I mean, what's the Frosted Flakes with Tony the Tiger, the cereal?
Yep.
Yeah, so it got me thinking about like mascots and how I feel like, do you feel like with mascots in particular, because for those that don't know, Trent designed the Lorecraft mascot, topography, the whole brand identity package. Do you feel like mascots have sort of like fallen to the wayside a little bit in the design world for brands and brand identities?
Yeah, I mean, I think that goes along with the whole like attention span study. Like even movies are being clipped and leaving out less just open space time. Yeah, like there's a lot more dialogue, and scenes will kind of leave out, like if you see like remakes of movies that we saw from our childhood, it just feels like there's less space in between the dialogue to give you room to just digest what you're thinking. Or feeling. And I think the same goes for design. And for a long time, people felt like we needed a mascot, which I think is a powerful tool because it gives people something to look at. There's something like bigger, imaginative that can be like a world symbol for what it is. Like Tony the Tiger was like the leader of the Frosted Flakes world, or whatever you want to call it, So with people spending less time, I think it kind of just, it's one of those things where it's responding to how people are seeing it. So maybe they aren't doing it as much because of that, I'm not too sure, but I think it's one of those concepts that's like Shakespeare. There are some things that just never really go out of style. They just get reinterpreted,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was kind of curious as you were answering this question. Do you have any kind of ritual to get into the flow of creativity? Because I sometimes think that artists and designers have some sort of magic within them where they're like, okay, I'm just going to just decide to make art today, right? Like, have you ever thought about like what are those things that you need to like turn on in order to be creative that day, or is it just like flowing through you naturally?
Well, good question, first of all. And I think it is a little bit of magic because there are tons of times where I go to start a design and I will know when things just aren't going anywhere, and understanding when the right time to create, I think, is a part of the magic. So it's like, if you're kind of like forcing ideas and you're hitting walls and you're like, I just can't create anything today, I think a part of the creative process is stepping away and taking a step back. And whether that's for a month and you're working on a piece that you're, maybe tired with, and you take a step back and come back to it later, or today, and you come back and, you'll have a different perspective just because time passed.
Yeah.
But I definitely think
It's
there's...
almost like respecting that process.
Right, exactly. Yeah, having room for it. And, it'd almost be like treating it like an assistant. You wouldn't treat an assistant like a slave, it would be a relationship. So, yeah, I think when we do create, it's really easy to get in that mindset of like, I have to do these things in order to get to where I'm going in the end point. But that goes back to the point I mentioned earlier where, with control, we also need moments of rest or intuition to allow things to kind of like grow through the control,
Yeah, it's very,
That's
that
so
process,
relevant.
that process you mentioned of like stepping away is very relevant as like writers. I'm sure Ava could also agree. It's like, you just hit that wall and you're like, all right, I've given it 100%. I got to level up. I just can't get through it. So you have to step away and let the pieces, you kind of almost have to forget about it in a way. At least for my personal individual experience, you have to sort of forget about the problems and talk to some people, do some other activities, and then come back to it with a different mindset. And then you start to see the code, like, oh, maybe here's a different way of figuring it out, or maybe even the way you were approaching it wasn't the most conducive. So then other solutions that you didn't previously consider because you saw it in this particular way, you're more open to pursuing those other paths.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly right. And yeah, it kind of is a comment on grind culture, and like,
Yes.
it's like, that's like when I was living in New York, that's kind of how it was, like, if you're not working, what are you doing? Kind of thing. But like,
Exactly.
that's just, it's not always the way,
It feels like it's hard for that mentality that you're talking about to exist in our day-to-day because of that grind culture mindset. It's like if you're not doing something constantly, then were you making progress at all? And I've had to take that lesson pretty hard myself as a writer, because there's some days where I'm like, the words aren't really coming to me. Do I just keep on sitting here and forcing it? And sometimes I go for a little bit longer and I still feel unsatisfied with it, but it's more beneficial for me to just turn to a different medium for inspiration or to work on any other aspect of my writing versus continuing to beat my head against it. But I think growing up, we are instilled with this idea that hard work is just like, keep doing it, right? Like keep struggling until you make a breakthrough. And I don't feel like you can really muscle that with creative activities.
Right. Yeah, which makes the job challenging, or can make the job challenging.
Yeah. Like I think the hard work aspect, like you still need that. I feel like the word hard work and discipline might not be the best euphemism for the two, because you need the discipline to stay consistent.
For sure.
I think is the real hard work, because like you don't want to give up that discipline of having your ritual, working on a plan, whether it's okay, I'm gonna do these many designs or write these many words or whatever. I think that's the hard work aspect, but you also have to know when the next step in that cycle of hard work is like, okay, it's like the gym analogy. You can't go to the gym every day of the week. You have to have moments where your body just
have to rest.
Absorbs it. And I think to your point, Ava, we have to relearn and reteach ourselves like, hey, rest is a part of like the equation. It's not the antithesis of it. Now if you're resting all the time, you're not doing any of the actual work, then that's the bad part. But as long as you understand, hey, I'm resting or I'm recuperating or recovering so that I can go 100%. It's just like athletics in a lot of different ways.
Right. No, absolutely. Yeah.
Now, do you have any sort of like favorite brand or brand identities before we get into some of the Lorecraft specific questions that we have here? Do you have like, who are like your top brands? Like, say whatever comes to mind on those. Like, go ham with it.
Yeah, like in terms of skateboarding, I would definitely say like Welcome Skateboards, Dime Clothing. I love Studio Ghibli, the characters, everything about that whole world is just so inspiring. Harry Potter just makes me feel like, especially on like a hard day, it's like it's just an escapism. Like I love my favorite brands are brands that create worlds that allow you to kind of leave the human physical realm for a little bit, and explore this other state. Um, yeah, and I'm just such a big fan of big teams of people that create that for others. Um, 'cause it's like the end goal could be sales, and they might need to, sell tickets in order to keep the company alive and, allow people to have jobs. But like a company like Studio Ghibli really does seem like a company that wanted to have a voice, or a group of creatives that wanted to have a voice and, evoke messages, powerful messages.
Yeah, like regardless of how big they are now, their genesis was like, how can I give an escape for my viewer, right? Who's going to be engaging with this medium, and what do I want them to feel?
Right.
I feel like we can definitely agree that Studio Ghibli is very transformative, and they transport you into those worlds.
Right.
So I have another question, because we talked about this when Ava and I first met, about how it's something weird or magical about how Studio Ghibli, like the suspension of disbelief is very easy to accept the rules of their world. So from a storytelling perspective, what do you feel like causes that? Like, say for example, when you watch Princess Mononoke or when you watch Spirited Away, you don't really have to like get a bunch of exposition up front to like, okay, I understand and agree with the rules of this world. You just kind of get presented it, and they just pull you into it. Star Wars did it with the screen crawl at the beginning of the movies, which was a smart, plot device to catch you up to speed on the backdrop without giving you 30 minutes of the movie dedicated to all the setup. What do you feel, specifically for Studio Ghibli, what do you feel like, how do you think they were able to achieve that? I'm curious to know your opinion, because that's something as writers, we're both trying to figure out, like, how do you do that? How do you create this world that's brand new to people, which each of their stories are different, but you just accept it, and then you can just enjoy the world?
Right. And I think that comes to like understanding humanity and creating really good characters that people associate with, because their worlds are kind of like unbelievable in a way. So I think they have this beautiful mixture of like really grounded characters that are simple to understand, and then concepts that are kind of otherworldly and expanding. So it's like they initiate the trust in the beginning because you resonate with the character, and as the story goes on, it opens up. And I think it's almost like that's like the part of the roller coaster that holds you in, is the character design, and then the rest of the film or whatever they're creating, it's like they can take you anywhere and you're along for the ride.
It's almost like if you can sell a character that is so immersive and so relatable, you end up kind of like becoming that character, and what the character's doing on screen is just basically accepted, right? Like you're like in Howl's Moving Castle, and Sophie sees the moving castle for the first time. Her reaction is like wonderment and awe, not like, what the fuck is that? It's like it's just an accepted part of the society that like every character's reacting in a way of like, oh look, there he is, and stuff like that. And like, you can only see him in so and so times, or like there's rumors about him, so it makes it kind of feel alive, that this is part of society, and it's accepted that there's literally like a skeleton of like things moving in the distance that is Howl's Moving Castle.
Right, yeah. And I think I watched a documentary about Hayao Miyazaki and how he would just study people. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever watched the movies and just looked at like the backgrounds. Like, every character is doing something. Like there's no filler. Like, you can see people in the background just either gardening, or they're getting water, or they're working, or they're leading a horse or a goat or something. Like, everybody's doing something, and it's a detail that makes it feel so real.
It's no wasted space, is what I like to call it in media, when you're just using all the material, using the full canvas in whatever way. The manga Berserk, rest in peace Kentaro Miura, but when you read Berserk, it's very graphic, but you look at these pages, it's like no wasted space, no wasted dialogue. Everything's like so crisp and on point. And for an animation, with Miyazaki films, same concept. But to recap, I just want to I want to understand your point better. So you're saying one of the reasons why they're able to achieve that suspension of disbelief is because they have simple but relatable characters with like a complex dynamic world. You think that is the magic formula?
Right. Yeah, and I think it's like something that's tied into a lot of concepts, which is like as above, so below. And two polar opposite ideas kind of coming together to create like this oneness. So that would be, my diagnosis. Like that would be how I see it. I'm sure, people will see anything differently. It's all open to perspective. But right, yeah, that's what I feel like works the best in those movies, or that's what you pull from it. Yeah. I'm also rambling at this point. I had a coffee.
No, you're good. No, I didn't expect it. I didn't expect, bring up the brands. I didn't expect the skateboarder, the Miyazaki films being brought up. So that's like cool because we're both, fans of both those things and whatnot. What was the skateboarding brand that you mentioned that you liked?
Welcome Skateboarding.
What is it about Welcome Skateboarding that you find cool? And we can get over to the Lorecraft questions.
So I think they kind of like came in and they were disruptors. They were brand disruptors because for a long time, like the skateboarding industry was owned by skateboarders, and as the companies needed to grow and make more money, they had to make deals with bigger companies, do like X Games. They had to bring in like Dew Tour, Mountain Dew. They had to get these big sponsors, which kind of it pulled skateboarding into a direction where you had to have that deal to make a living in it, and that kind of diminished the creator aspect of it. So like the self-expression. So I'm a big fan of like Adidas and Nike, and I love what they did for the skateboarding industry. But at the same time, it kind of pulled it in a more corporate direction. And so, I think for a while that was like really cool. People were following that, and then eventually it kind of became like people knew what to expect, and it just seemed like they were selling stuff for a money grab. So companies like Welcome, it was almost like a new generation of businesses and companies came in where the skateboarders stepped back in again, and Welcome was one of them, where they had an identity that was hard to forget. Their artwork was insane. Like they worked and supported local artists that they loved, and it was seen as a brand disruptor, which sometimes brands have to respond to their following, but then there are also times where in order to be seen or understood, a brand has to kind of become divergent in a way.
Yeah. That's really cool, and I think at the core of like all that, the need to make money keeps on coming up, and I feel like what you're saying about Welcome is that they were going back to their roots of like, who is this product for, and who is our target audience, and it's okay that it's not huge, but in that doing, they stood out from everyone that was following that trend of like, what can we do to make more money, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. Yep.
Really cool. I can't wait to hear more about this Lorecraft stuff, because obviously you did make our brand identity. You did send us a really cool clip of your process as well, which we're going to also put in here. But what was your favorite part or most interesting part of working on the Lorecraft identity?
I definitely think it was first of all, getting to do a mascot is just so much fun. Because it's like character design tied in with personality, and you have different iterations of it, and that refinement process is just kind of fun to go through. But I would say I think the most exciting part was taking both of your personalities and kind of creating something with it, where it's like we had to choose. They weren't so different that they couldn't fit together, but they were different worlds that we had to fit into one look. So I think like the alchemy of like taking both of your interests and creating something was the was the best part. And then of course the excitement in the end, that's always fun, is like creating something, showing it to the client, and getting excited about the idea, seeing where else it could go, so yeah.
Oh, you really kicked ass on that part. I feel like Donnie came in with like Afropunk, sci-fi, futuristic, and I was like soft, gothic, curvy lines set back in like medieval times kind of thing. Well, like we're really talking about like opposite ends of things, and I feel like you really did a good job of combining both of them into a cohesive design, which is why we love it so much. Yeah,
and there's always space to make things work, in the creative field. I think that's the best part about being a creator, is that it not being on I guess UX design, where it's like there is a function that it needs to do. Within the creative space, we can really create anything.
Yeah. It's funny how those, when you bring up the UX side of things, how like serving a function versus all the other aspects of the design, whereas you can be a little bit more liberal with the expressionism aspect of it. It's always interesting, like how far can you get in either direction with playing with those boundaries and whatnot. Can you break down how you approach the brand from like start to finish deliverables? This may recanvas some of your workflow, but how did you, from when we first reached out, how did you first approach? Did you start with like the topography? Did you start with like what parts of our feedback? Kind of give like people who may want to get into the field of design, graphic design, give them some good nuggets here that they can think about of how to approach their creative projects.
Yeah, well, I tried to focus on both the outcome and then obviously the steps. And I think I usually start with just color. Like seeing colors helps me understand what the brand is going to represent or evoke. So I typically started with colors, and then I began to sketch the ghost, and then we also had a font that we were working with. We had to create a custom font. So I think my process for this was creating one really concrete idea, or starting with the most concrete, which was the text logo, and then taking that and dismantling it and pulling pieces from it. So creating one concrete idea, and then looking at what can we create from this. Like, can we pull like the curves of the S, or this angle is going to determine the type of angles I use for the helmet or the other visuals. So yeah, it's really creating one concrete piece to create iterations from.
It almost reminds me of like you pick your anchor, or like your hero piece of the brand, right? And like you go ahead and radiate out from that, so you can ensure it's cohesive with everything else you're creating. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's a part of the process. And I think doing it for almost a decade now, it's kind of like automatic. But for somebody that's just starting, it really is a process of creation and elimination. So sort of like what you said, Donnie, with having tenacity or discipline is important in those first steps to create something that you like, and then to pull from it. That's kind of where the fun and the conceptualization comes in.
For sure. Now, you just mentioned, like I feel like you're talking a lot about like how it flows for you. Could you tell me about when you encounter like the hardest part of design for yourself? Is it UX? Is it UI? Is it graphics? Or what is it for you?
It would just depends on the client, because at the end of the day, it's like it's a relationship with people who have end goals. So obviously like a tough client would be a harder job, and a client that you feel like you align with would be a little bit easier. But I would say
like almost like aligning the vision, and it depends on how in sync you are off the bat, right? How much work you have to do to get that closer in line.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and the clarity that you're able to get So working with you two, I mean, you guys are obviously creatives in your own space. So it was almost like we spoke the same language. But the hardest part is when you're working with, people that either don't appreciate the creative process or that have like a specific thing that they want. And, you just hear no, like a common joke in our creative space is like, people know more about what they don't want than what they want.
100%.
You know?
The moment you show them a mock-up, they're like, oh, now I have something to react to, and here's what I have to say about it. But when you're in this, like, requirements gathering phase, they're like, oh, just make it red.
Yeah, do what you want to do.
Red,
yeah,
right?
Make it pop.
Yeah, make it pop. Yep.
Like, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah, right.
I totally get it.
Right. So finding descriptors. Yeah.
Do you have any design war stories of like difficult clients? Any funny little there was this one time where this really tight a-hole just wouldn't.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've seen it all. Like, before before this was sustainable for me, I had to do any job I could. I had to work with anybody. And there was one time I worked with this person who was starting a nonprofit, and it was, I forgot what the nonprofit was for, but this woman, I just met her, and we ended up creating the design together. This happened probably like, I don't know, 9 years ago. It was a while ago, so I don't remember a lot of details, but I just remember her sending blank checks that bounced. Both of them bounced.
Oh man!
And
What?
all through the process, I'm like a young designer, so I'm like, all right, the checks will go through. Let's just continue the process. So I'm continuing to work with her. I'm having meetings, and I'm not getting paid. And
no.
the process went on for probably like 2 months, and I was supposed to get the last check, and she sent the check, and the second check bounced too. So I never got paid. This woman like fell off the face of the earth. And so I went to Facebook and I was like, hey, has anybody heard of this person? Like, who is this person? And apparently she had been going around and doing that with everybody. So I don't even know if the nonprofit was something she was even doing. It was probably just a scam, and I branded like her scam. You know what I mean?
That's red flag number one.
Right.
As soon as you said nonprofit, I was like, man, that's in the name itself, nonprofit. So you already have an uphill battle, like you're working off like hopes and dreams instead of like
Right.
shared value.
I get what you
commerce
mean,
of like like nonprofits, man. Just like it's not an easy business by any means. So
Right. And I was like a 19 or 20-year-old, and I had to meet up with like her lawyer, and it was the first time I really had to stand up for my talent, for my job, for what I did.
Yeah.
I mean, it was scary. This is like a person who knows how to navigate the world, and I'm just somebody who is helping her. So, and that's not the first time I've ever experienced not getting paid, but it was the first time I had experienced kind of getting dragged around and just going with the flow because I needed the money,
when the communication like starts to dip, that's red flag number one. I feel like in working relationships of any kind, interpersonal, professional, what have you, as soon as the communication lines start getting frayed or it's like shaky at the beginning, it's like that's when all right, red flags are up, type of deals. But I empathize with you on that one. And it brings up, not to our other mutual friend Shep, but the whole thing that him and Nick had with the art gallery space and that thing. That was a whole other venture of like things just gone bad from like a good idea to a bad end result.
Right. Yeah, and then miscommunicating the end goal, and I think that's kind of just what it came back to for them. But yeah, I mean, it's just one of those industries where you have to fight to be respected as a creative because you're typically working with, the investor. And if you're lucky enough to work with a creative team, I think that's awesome. And that's the best way to work as a creative. Yeah.
What do you feel like people get wrong about design in general?
I would say that it's if people only see it for like selling a product or for marketing, I think that's like the typical takeaway. Like growing up, I was pretty anti-establishment. Like I loved conspiracy videos. I loved like the UFO phenomenon. Like that was like who I was. So companies like, McDonald's or bigger corporations, I was kind of just like anti, and this was before I became a designer and understood that I could choose my own path, obviously. But yeah, that it's just a tool for marketing or selling a product when it's a community building tool. It's a tool to help you find your people, and then also for your viewers to find their people too. It's like a beacon in a way.
Yeah, I never thought of it like that, as a community building tool or a beacon. So I like that, rewiring of the brain synapses on that. Do you have any sort of like favorite design companies or studios that you like follow or go to or draw inspiration from?
Yeah, so I'd love Above and Beyond. It's a like house music group, and okay. I just love, it's not necessarily their visuals, but like I said earlier, I love when people create like entire worlds that are like, they do things that are specific to their brand. Like Above and Beyond would take people to like they would take people to different locations in the world, whether it's like a waterfall or just somewhere outdoors with an amazing view. They'd get a drone, and the drone would fly around while this person does their set. There's like no people, and again, this isn't like focused on their visual, but they created a new experience for the end consumer. So it was really thinking about what hasn't been done in the space. And then I have, like Apple, I said Studio Ghibli, Harry Potter, Viceland. I remember when Viceland first came out. That was awesome. Like just what they were, I think that's a good example of a disrupting brand. Like you would turn onto the channel and like the screen would turn white, and then Viceland would just be in black, or it would be black and Viceland was in white. And if they were communicating with you, they would just write the type out. So you would be reading, and you would read it in your voice. And I just remember thinking like, wow, they're like kind of thinking 2 steps ahead. And whether they thought it was that deep or not, I thought it was really cool that, they were putting out information, and it was your voice, and there was kind of this interaction. It could have just been somebody explaining something, but yeah, they made it into like a dynamic type opportunity.
Real quick, and then Ava, you can ask the next question, but just because it sparked the thought, when you brought up Viceland and like the type, it made me think of the Designers Republic. They're the brand house from London that did the design for Wipeout, the video game on PlayStation, like the racing game. And I love their design philosophy because it brings to mind what you're talking about, like the text and kind of this futuristic viewpoint of the world, and they achieve that, way back in the early 2000s with the Wipeout series.
Nice. Yeah, I just actually pulled them up, and yeah, I think this is so cool. Like they kind of use like a minimalistic sort of vibe, which I think is like, it's definitely edgy and almost abstract. It's like a statement before they even see what the brand is about. You're kind of like already making a statement about what your company represents.
Yeah, that's really cool. Would you share with us, what are some of your go-to design resources, tools, books, blogs, YouTube channels, or anything like that?
So in terms of like my like platforms, I obviously use the Adobe Suites. I use Discord, and then I kind of just search and look up plugins. I think that's one of like the most fun things you can do as a beginner designer is explore tutorials for Photoshop and Illustrator. Like they're always creating updates, and I feel like what makes it so hard and intimidating to step into is the fact that you don't know what everything does for a beginner user. But even the professionals don't know the full capabilities of these platforms. So, while my platform use is kind of limited to Adobe, like they're always updating and changing those platforms, so your work also upgrades too. So there's always room to explore if you're staying open-minded. It's very easy to get into the flow of kind of just doing the same thing over and over again for each client. But when you
And not
explore,
really innovating anymore.
right.
Got it. That makes sense.
So as we wrap up in closing here, I want to canvas a little bit about your personal projects, like your personal brands, which is, when we first met, pretty much 10 years ago this year, I've always been attracted to your style of like designing and branding. It just, but like everything you talked about, and it was funny when you mentioned you start with color, because that's one of the first things I noticed about your work is like it's very color rich, it's very in your face. You can notice it among so many different things. So before we hop into that, which aspect of design do you enjoy the most? Is it typography? Is it kerning? Is it color theory, playing with colors? Is it doing sketches and lines? Like which part of it is like your favorite aspect of design in general?
That's a great question. I would say the conceptualization or the conceptual part, because it's exciting. Like you kind of get immediate feedback. If it's a conversation, it's like it can kind of go anywhere you want it to go. And it's also the part before the work begins, so it's like you're kind of still in this imaginative, like kid-like phase, where like these are the different places it can go. And then, obviously illustrating too, because I started as an artist. Whenever I can fit illustrating in a job, it's always a good experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, kind of share with the audience a little bit about Conscious Moth and the Human brand. I don't know if you're still pushing on the Human brand, but kind of give a little bit more context into like those projects and how those came to be for people who are unfamiliar.
Yeah, so I really started creating books and clothing to just go along with art shows that I did in the past. When I was starting my career as a graphic designer, I was really more of an artist. But I did go to school for graphic design, so I was trying to find a way that I could create a new vehicle for my artwork. And that was kind of like the beginning goal. And that led me to self-publishing 2 books and also creating Conscious Moth, which was kind of just an idea or creative house. Today, I spend a lot more time working with clients, and I think it's something I'll step back to. But yeah, if you're interested, you can go onto my website, consciousmoth.com. You can explore my artwork. I have books that are up. I have a virtual art gallery that's on there. I have videos about my art philosophy. So yeah, you can find a lot through there. And I have a lot of stuff that I'm looking forward to create. So yeah, I'm kind of in that space that I was talking about earlier, where you step back and come back with a little more inspiration and direction.
You went to the training mode. Like
that's right.
I remember when I was younger. Quick tangent here. When Dragon Ball Z Budokai came out, like those games, like all my cousins were older, and like I wasn't as good at it, and then I stayed up all night in the training mode, and I came back and just kicked all their asses because I knew how to do all the super special moves. Like that's what it feels like when you kind of reach a point where like, all right, I'm maxed out. Let me step back. You kind of get new insights, perspectives, new tools, and you come back to me. All right, I'm ready to create like the dopest things ever. Musicians do that very well when they step away for like 2 years, fall off, and they come back with like some really good music. Like I'm like, yes, right on time.
Yeah. Hyperbolic time chamber,
Yeah, exactly, 100%. Yeah, we'll definitely link to the show notes, your websites and links so people can follow you and everything. So just a few more questions. So we have one question about the mascot we'll leave to the end, but I want to ask about, because it's a big topic ever since Mid-Journey kind of blew up to the public use and people have been going crazy about it. But how do you see these changes in the industry and profession as it relates to the emergence of generative AI? Are you pro or you against? Do you see it as a tool? Do you see it as like stay away from it, or what are your thoughts on it overall?
Well, I mean, I would love to be the type of person that's like, no, just stay away from it. You know what I mean? Like I care too much about, but I'm very open-ended. Like I'm very open-minded about it, and I think it's kind of a double-edged sword, where it's like, I think it reduces opportunities for maybe entry-level designers, but this is also a tool that could help entry-level business creators real time figure out what they like to create. I think it's really exciting that we're in a time where you can have an idea and you can almost get it from start to finish. Whether this is going to be an effective brand strategy or design for your company is up to you and how you use it. But I think it's definitely a powerful tool that exists alongside the human touch. Understanding how people respond to something takes a human perspective. While we can use data to create things, I think the organic companies are the ones that people feel attachment to and end up building communities. So that just goes back to my last point and what I think is important in design. So somebody else who focuses on a different aspect of design might feel like it is a threat, and I think that is true. But me personally, I think it's a great tool, alongside human creativity.
Yeah. I feel like humans can also sniff out authenticity pretty well, and so although you can make something faster with Gen AI, if you're using it exclusively and relying on it heavily, you might not be able to hit that community aspect because it's clear that it's not like there isn't as much human touch with this. And now we're starting to be a little bit more discerning as Gen AI becomes more and more prevalent. Then I feel like our appetites for it will start to soften in a way, right? Like if everything looks the same and everything is homogenous, you're looking for the things that are different. And I think that's where like that human touch and that human attention is going to come back in.
Yeah, I almost liken it to it's Dollar General or Dollar Store versus like Wegmans, Whole Foods. Like no one's building community around Dollar General or Dollar Store, but you definitely got people who build community around Whole Foods and Wegmans. However you feel about them, but just like it's the differences in like I feel like the Gen AI aspect to Ava's point is just gonna get homogenized and all feels the same. It's just cheap fodder. But I feel like it can help to where it can help put some ideas in place to where you can take that idea and then bring it to someone like yourself to then put actual real human talent behind it. So I think that's where the cart and the horse is going to work best. Like, hey, let's use Gen AI to then go present an idea to people who can actually, other humans who can actually build things, and then we all win.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I actually heard somebody the other day say that, having AI creates a blueprint. It does the blueprinting so we can actually show up. There's like a structure that it can help us create in order for us to focus on showing up and bringing in, what we find needs to be said, or the voice.
Yep.
Yeah. It's like making space so that you can go work on a more difficult problem, right? But it shouldn't take the place of like doing all the work,
right?
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, Trent, the most important question. What do you think we should call our brand mascot? You obviously made the design for our little ghosty guy. What if we were to put a name to him, her, they, them? What would you call them? I already latched onto an idea. I'm going to try not to poison the well because I saw it on the brand sheet and I was like, that's it. Anyways, you go on though. Tell us what you think.
I'm not sure. Like, I'm the type that's like, he's nameless, or they, they, she, he is just nameless. It's ghost,
Nameless could work.
Yeah.
No
Nameless,
name.
Nameless definitely could still work. The one that
Yeah.
I gravitated towards because it was on the brand sheet. I was like, because you had like a warped version
Yeah.
of the ghost, and just happening to see the word warped next to like the brand character, I was like, oh, its name is warped. I thought it was like super
Oh, I
cute.
love that. Yeah, that's so cool.
Yes.
Great.
I do love that one because I feel like they're all good options. So it's warped or warp T, however you want to pronounce it. But I also thought of like tetra. I don't know. I just like love Greek words and letters. But I thought tetra is kind of cool and abstract. And then duo for like we're a partnership. Um,
Mm.
and whatnot. So Duo and Tetra are like the other two contenders. But Nameless is another good one. He could just be Nameless.
Right. No
I would
name.
Nameless for real, or just like no name?
No name.
No name.
Yeah,
No
no
name. We're
name.
Nameless. Yeah, no
Yeah.
name. Yeah, that'd be cool. No name. Isn't what's the Ghibli character in No Face?
Yeah, no face.
No face.
Yeah,
Yeah.
No Face. Yeah, it might just be No Name. We
Right.
have No Face and No Name.
Yeah, same kind of
That
vibe.
might can work.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah, No Name.
That might.
What's the name of your
Right.
mascot? No Name. What?
No name.
That's the
Right.
guy. Yeah. No
See?
Name cereal brand.
And that's successful design. Getting
Yeah.
people asking questions.
Exactly. Well, I think that concludes this episode of Lorecraft Creative. So thank you so much, Trent, for coming on and chopping it up with us. Like I said, please make sure to follow, like, subscribe, body slam the like button. Leave a comment on what you think would be the best mascot name for our mascot, who as of now is called No Name. Trent, where can people follow you on the socials? You want to plug your socials real quick?
Yeah, so I'm primarily on Instagram as Trent Bar. That's TrentBar. And yeah, I just post my artwork. I sprinkle stuff in here and there. So yeah, and then I have YouTube as well. And I put up like little meditation videos with animations.
Okay.
That's a newer thing.
Oh,
That's
So
sick.
dope.
yeah.
All right. Well, thank you
Thank
for
you
coming
again for
on.
your time. It was
Yeah.
so awesome talking with you.
Yeah, thank you both for having me.